Hey guys, welcome to the Save Continue podcast, where every week we get together and talk about video games and video game related stuff.
Is that some
I'm
Bloodborne?
Yeah, that's Bloodborne back there.
that there is Tommy Scalby,
Hello, hello.
and then the other gentleman is Ryan Robinson.
Hello, my name is Ryan Robinson, not a virgin.
And I'm Shanae Howard. So guys, what have y'all been playing this week?
Okay, so I've got two things I want to talk about.
You can only talk about one.
Brief little journeys here. Okay, one.
Uh-huh.
Right before we started recording this, my daughter just beat The Legend of Zelda: The Wind Waker,
Nice.
Ooh.
and it's funny to think about. Stick with me here and let me know what you think about this. Okay,
Okay.
because gaming is relatively new,
Right.
in the grand scheme of things, right? Compared to movies or books or whatever else, right? And it reminds me of when I was in middle school, early high school, I really loved the film Midnight Express, which was written by Oliver Stone. And my dad had expressed some sense of pride in me knowing that movie, knowing that most people my age would not know that movie. And when I see my kid beat a game like this, that is 17, 18 years old at this point, I kind of feel that same sense of pride in that, the majority of her friends have probably not played this game at all.
Yeah.
Is that
Yeah.
weird?
Well,
No,
no, because that means
I
that means your daughter's the cool gamer kid.
It's not even that. It feels like she's more cultured, as pretentious as that sounds.
Sure.
So I thought that
uh,
was pretty cool.
yeah, I mean like anything referential to it, she'll obviously get it while others won't. But
Sure.
it's also
But it's not even
something.
about that. It's about appreciating a master work, or what I would consider to be.
Yeah. Well,
But it's also something that something more that y'all have in common. That's not necessarily something that you don't super enjoy. You just and you know your kid can play it. It's something
Sure.
that you both can appreciate together on kind of the same level, which is
And there's
always the
already
nice turning
been
point with
games like
kids.
that, right? She says forever now that her favorite game is Nier Automata, and you guys know that's my shit. But that's a modern game. She probably has peers that have played that. Um, so it's just interesting in that way to think of games in that way, and I thought that was pretty cool. The other thing, I bought King of Fighters 14 on a whim, and
There's now 14. Holy shit!
yeah, and that game is not pretty, but I knew that before buying it. But uh, the quality of the game aside, it's the first time that I played a King of Fighters where the way that combos are done in that series finally clicked with me. And I was able to take that knowledge back to previous games and execute well in those games. And it's I was telling Ryan, it feels really good, but it also feels like I've wasted 30 years of my life. Because I've been playing with these games, not seriously, but I've been playing with these games since I was fucking 6 or 7 years old. Uh, and I guess I just never really got them until now. So that's weird. Yeah.
yeah, that's kind of I didn't understand how combos worked in Killer Instinct until I played 2013. Because I didn't.
Well, and the way they work in 13 is different from previous Killer Instinct games.
Then I guess I still don't understand.
Yeah. I mean, not completely different, but yeah.
I know what you. I mean, as somebody who is not good at video games, I can relate to that feeling because there's definitely those moments where it clicks and it's like, holy shit.
Holy
Well, I
shit,
think
Shane.
you grow up with Street Fighter being your fucking game, right? And every fighting game going forward after that, I'm like, well, surely it works like this. Obviously, that's very frequently not the case. But I always try to play King of Fighters like Street Fighter, and yeah, just within this last week, it finally clicked for me, and very happy that that's the case.
Which
Nice.
which King of Fighter games did you go back to and play again?
Well, over the past few months, I've been playing O2 Ultimate Match, as well as 13. which are probably the two best King of Fighters games ever made. But like, I remember talking to Ryan about like max cancel in 13 and how like I understood what it was for. I just didn't understand how to execute on it, you know. And like now being able to do that, that game's just way more fun, you know.
What about you, Ryan?
Oh, me? Huh. So thanks to Tom, I am also playing King of Fighters 14.
Did you also have a similar, yeah, I just got how to play this game moment?
No, I still don't know how to play King of Fighters, but I will say that I think that uh, I have an affinity for SNK fighting games. Like I just like the way that they look and the way that they feel. I just think that they're overall like generally very cool. Um, and I think this is the first King of Fighters game that I've played in a while because I played 13 a little bit on the computer, but I think the most recent one that I played was 2002. And I hadn't really touched one, but going into this game, I listened. I was listening to Tom talk about it and talk about all the things that he learned playing the game, and it got me really excited. And so I was like, I want to get in on that. So um, I went ahead and got it. It's on sale right now for $16. So um, yeah, we played a few matches last night. Also, that game has online training, so we could train and practice our moves online together without having to worry about rounds or time limits or anything, and it's really neat. So that's a good time. Also, since it was only $5, I also picked up Garo Mark of the Wolves, which is a fantastic game. I can't wait to play it. Tom has frequently referred to it as a man's fighting game. But it is a very good classic game. Um, I've also been revisiting No Man's Sky. Just doing some of the community events in that. That's been a pretty fun time so far. Uh, I've managed to like I've happened upon something that I'd never seen before, which was there's these things called lightning lightning eggs, lightning crystals, lightning crystals, and they only happen when you're on a planet with extreme weather and when there's a storm happening on that planet. So it's really dangerous to go out and collect them, but they're worth like a whole bunch of money. So I had a really good time collecting those. I felt like a true treasure hunter doing that.
You got,
Um,
did you get a bunch of monies?
yeah, I got like over 1 million credits in like the course of like 5 minutes, which I have
Fuck yeah.
I haven't had. I've owned that game for 4 years and have never gotten 1 million credits before. So I was really happy about that. And lastly, I have been revisiting Destiny 2, um, which, man, that's a cool game. Uh, it's just like so. I've always thought that the lore of Destiny seemed interesting from like a really high level, like, but like I never really got to get into it in depth, and so like luckily even after all the updates they've done in Destiny 2 over the last since the game came out, like you can go back and do the content from like when the game first launched, so you can get that story and be caught up, and it's really neat. I'm having a good time. I'm playing with a couple of buddies, uh, playing it on computer. Yeah, it's really cool. I have a space wizard who shoots lightning out of his hands,
Dope.
which I love. So yeah,
Is that still on BattleNet?
no, it's not. It's on Steam now.
How weird.
Yeah. Um,
Uh, yeah. I haven't heard anybody talk about Destiny in a hot minute, but I'm glad you're having fun. And Space Wizard does sound like fun.
yeah, and it's free to play now. So
Ah. Now whenever I hear free to play, all I think is like, oh, so like you lose 5 lives and you have to pay for more like Candy
yeah,
Crush.
Yes, that is correct.
that is also correct. That applies to
That
Destiny as well.
so I played some Mario Party with my family, and
Cool.
The new
then
one?
the one on the Switch.
Yeah, Super Mario Party. Yeah, that's a good one.
Um,
I like that more than a lot of people did. I had fun with it.
I mean, I think it's fun. We've had it because it's the one that's been out for a hot minute, right?
Oh yeah,
Like,
a
so,
good little while
yeah.
now.
Yeah, no, I got it on my Switch pretty shortly after we bought it because some family came into town. So it's one of those games everybody can play. As well as played some Mario Kart, and then I played Unravel 2 with my friend Sean.
I'm sorry.
What? It's
I
actually
hate
not.
Yarny.
I know. So it was so familiar to me whenever he was like
Yarnsworth.
showing what he had, and then he bought it, and I was like, yeah, I was like, reminds me of this game Yarny, and I was like, wait, no.
It was never called Yarny. That's the
No.
character's name.
And I told him that. I was like, wait, no, I was like, I didn't play it, but I was like told that you played it, and that you called it Yarny and called the
Yeah.
character that. So since
No,
then,
that's
it's
the
now
character's name. That is the character's name.
It's
It's
short
not.
for Yarnathan.
Yes, it is. It absolutely is. Look it up.
Yeah.
So Unravel 2, both the yarns are Yarny.
I have no idea. I just know about the first one.
But yeah, so in there I was like, I genuinely thought it. I was like, but I've seen the first one played. Second one, obviously similar gameplay, but I liked it. I thought it moved pretty well. I liked the little challenges they had.
Did you like? How was the yarn?
The yarn was fantastic.
Okay.
I felt very much like Spider-Man because I kept shooting at my stuff, and like they had a lot that were like acrobatics in the air.
If you wanna feel like Spider-Man, I have a game for you.
Is it Spider-Man?
Yes.
Yarny is EA looking out for the little guy, you know?
That little guy is Yarny.
But no, it wasn't bad at all. And then just been playing Smash, and I'm getting a lot better at my spacing, and I'm pretty excited about that. And I'm finally figuring out how to play or fast characters. I played a couple of them, and I didn't do too bad. And normally I get like really like nervous and like ugh with these characters.
So which Fire Emblem character is your main?
Corn and Byleth.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was like, I have two that I play a lot.
I like Corin a lot in that game. Are you guys playing like Final Destination, no items, or are you playing just like whatever?
Oh, me and Sean play everything on, including like the stage changes,
Yeah, right.
all of the items, everything, like random characters half the time. We don't even select them. We're just like doing that. But yeah, no, it's and then with Birdo, I don't know, they make their own rules too. Like they don't show the percentages and just the lives, and then they don't play with any items, but they do have the certain stages picked out.
Yeah.
And then of course Animal Crossing. I'm getting excited for all the updates next month. And then
I thought it was just a bunch of bugs next month.
No, they're gonna let you swim next month. You're gonna get swim in that.
Yeah,
bitch.
I get to go swim, and then there's like new encounters, and
My sister just had her Animal Crossing birthday.
Yeah, she sent me a picture of her Animal Crossing birthday. She was really excited about it.
So she didn't set it as her own birthday?
No, she did.
Yeah.
Oh.
It was her actual birthday.
Awesome birthday.
Yeah.
It's not noteworthy that it was her birthday, on a show about video games. You understand that,
right? No.
Man, get it together, Shanae.
Never. But yeah, so this week though, Tom came out with the topic, and we're going to talk about if we could change one thing in the history of gaming, what would it be? Or not what would it be, but like what would we change and how would it affect like today?
Oh, see, so I wasn't thinking about it in that term, like if we could change one thing, right? I was thinking it more of it like Marvel Comics What If, you know?
That's kind of what I meant, but I heard how it came out of my mouth, and I was like, well,
none of the things I picked are things that I would actually want to change.
Sure.
You know?
Oh. Well, some on mine neither, because I picked a couple as well.
Sure. But I picked a
Um,
few. I figured we could do one each. I picked a few just in case I picked the same thing as you guys.
Okay.
Uh, so who wants to go first?
Shanae.
all right, I'll go first. So on mine, so mine is what if Sega never had any issues with their hardware and were continuing making consoles today? So Sega Genesis was marketed well
Mm-hmm.
and like sold way more than it actually did. Um, Sega Japan decided to really push on their market. I think that if they were still around, there'd be a lot more innovation as far as controllers and systems themselves. Historically, they did try a lot of things with the cartridges and discs as they were before they were making the Genesis and their decisions on there. And yeah, so that's my first one.
Well, even after that, right? Like things like AM2 hardware, as well as like Naomi and Atomic Wave, like that was their shit, right? So like, I think the interesting thing about Sega, perhaps the most interesting thing about Sega, is as far as tech goes at the time, uh, not as much with Dreamcast, but yeah, even with Dreamcast, they were really like leading the industry as far as tech goes. You know, they were far ahead in a lot of ways. Certainly in the
Well,
arcade scene, but even at home for a very long time.
at
So
least
like,
well, I know in like Japan, whenever like I think it was like the SG 1300 or 1000 that came out at the same time that the Famicom did. I think on the
mhm.
same day. I know the Famicom had better tech than it at that moment, but I
I'm
know that
talking about
like
later stuff though. You know, like
okay,
actually towards Sega's end, not their beginnings.
got you.
Uh,
Okay.
yeah,
Um,
their tech was pretty far ahead. You know, we're talking about games like Virtua Fighter and you know fucking Daytona and stuff like that that look pretty fucking weird today, but like back then that was some industry leading shit. You know, um, so if they continued on that path, I guess like Phil Spencer couldn't tell you how powerful the new Xbox is going to be. You know, it'd be like whatever Sega's Dreamcast 3 would be or whatever, you
Oh
know,
man,
like,
imagine a world where the Dreamcast 3 exists.
you know,
That sounds
it, it,
pretty cool.
and it's all speculation, right? This whole conversation is speculation, but
well, I yeah, well, I also think that with having another competitor,
yeah,
there probably would, and especially one that like you're, because you are correct. The fact is, like historically, Sega did take a lot more risks than other like companies at the time. Like there's a lot of things that Sega did, obviously that Nintendo didn't do because they wanted to be family friendly. But the markets that like I mean, but competitively for a long time, those two in like a lot of markets were like the main two.
oh yeah,
I do think that because they were willing to do more, also at that time or for a long time, and even well now, on some things like Nintendo was saying like, hey, if you're gonna make games for us, like you only make games for us, and Sega wasn't doing that. And I think that there would
yeah.
be I think maybe there's definitely a possibility that the indie game scene with having another competitor and pillar would have boomed a bit sooner.
I
Granted,
don't think so, and we'll get to that with my pick because I don't think either of you have picked what I've picked. But like, I mean, it would definitely be different, right? Like, you are correct. There was a period of time where Nintendo wanted not really like to lock everybody down to a second party deal, because even on like the NES and Famicom, right, Konami was making games for multiple consoles,
yeah.
but it is something that they would prefer to have had, and Sega was a bit more open with that stuff. At the same time, you know, with Sega getting out of the hardware race, you know, we wouldn't see Sonic in Smash Brothers now, which is kind of weird. Or like Mario and Sonic at the Winter Games wouldn't really be a thing, you know, and that's funny to think about. But like, what I do wonder, I don't know, it's hard to say, right? Like Sega still makes arcade games, and they don't make great arcade games, but they still make arcade games, some of which are pretty fun compared to like the mobile arcade ports, right? Uh, I wonder if like they had stuck with hardware, and this is like heavy speculation, but if they had stuck with hardware and when Sega was heavy into hardware, were leading things specifically at arcades,
Yeah.
would the arcade scene be better now? You know, that I wonder about pretty often. You know,
Actually, that I mean, because I could totally see where in the industry, like a possibility of like Sega for a long time making arcade games for their one of their best sellers, and then as their new console launched, put on their new console,
right? Well,
and
and
like
even when
and
I think
making it
of
like the arcade market, the demographic market to hit it first.
right, and when I think about like some modern arcade games that are actually fun, like the Monkey Ball arcade and the Alien arcade, like those were Sega games, like modern Sega arcade games. And they weren't fantastic, but if Sega would still had teams that were invested in arcade hardware, uh, would they be more fantastic? You know, I don't know.
But yeah. So Ryan, you're up next.
Okay, hold on. I have a doc.
Is it a Google Doc?
Yes. Okay, so, um, and I just want to, I'm, mine was, of course, like we're doing, making sure I understood the thing here, but basically, like if this thing didn't happen, what would have been the effects, right?
Sure, right.
So I went with online gaming.
That was one of mine. Good, good, good.
Okay. Okay. So
What if online gaming didn't happen?
Yeah.
Or
yeah. Well, and I like even further. Like I went really, really far back.
the
Um,
internet didn't exist?
well, like I went back to like the late '60s. Um, so I went back to to 1969 when so there was something called Plato, which stood for Programmed Logic for Automatic Teaching Operations. And they had an internet system on that, which offered a two-player game called Space War. Um, now, then you fast forward, okay, to the late '70s to ARPANET, which is a system that was basically the predecessor to the internet that linked a bunch of universities together. Then in 1980, the University of Essex at Colchester, England, was hooked up to ARPANET, and two undergraduate students there invented a type of game called a MUD, stands for Multi-User Dungeon. And so what that allowed for was it's a text-based thing, and it was basically it was a role-playing game that had like elements of adventure and hack and slash. You had PvP in there, interactive fiction, online chat, um, and so that basically like laid the foundation for online gameplay. Um, so I take these things, right, going back all the way to 1969, and if these things didn't happen, if that foundation wasn't laid for online multiplayer, then we look forward a few decades and we see when online gameplay was a really popular thing, like starting with like games like Counter Strike and EverQuest and games that like part of like a a group of games that popularized online play and what was in the modern era and made it kind of cemented it as like a profitable thing to have online games. So if games aren't so if online gaming wasn't made popular at that point, then we don't see the success of games like Call of Duty Modern Warfare, which which kind of made a standardized what a lot of shooters were doing and like built some foundations moving forward. And then moving forward, we have like the whole games as a service, like with games like games like Destiny or The Division, or games like that are like live games and games as a platform that as they exist today. And so if if that foundation weren't laid back then for these online gameplay, then I don't. I guess. I guess I don't think. I'm not sure. I should say that online games would have existed, or at least wouldn't have existed, like in that same timeline. If I'm making any sense.
Yeah, you're making sense. It's funny. Somebody else had brought up like Pong, and if Pong never happened, would there not be other tennis games? And of course, there would be tennis games, right? Like it would just be much later. It might be a little bit different or whatever. And like, I think online gaming would still happen. It's happened to literally every other industry, just about, right?
Yeah.
I think it would still happen. I think it just might happen later.
Yeah.
And I don't think it would happen much later, honestly. As far as like infrastructure or how it looks to play an online game, like it's really hard to say how much influence those old games have on modern day online gaming, or even the not the birth of online gaming, but the popularization, the mainstreaming of online gaming.
I sort of took a butterfly effect approach to it. Like you go back and change,
sure.
you go back and change one thing, and then all of this other shit might fall apart.
So in this
very well might.
So in this parallel universe where online gaming doesn't really become a thing. So do you think that means that like first-person shooters would not become as big of a category without, like obviously like, because I'm assuming like online gameplay also means there's no like LAN party, so no like Halo, no Call of Duty.
I think they were already huge before that was even an option.
There were prototypes for first-person shooters like around the same time that MUDs came to exist. They obviously didn't look the way that like we knew them, even like as far as ahead as Doom, but like they kind of existed.
But even with Doom and Wolfenstein, right? Like obviously with Wolfenstein, but as well as with Doom, I knew plenty of kids who played Doom and didn't play Deathmatch.
Yeah. Yeah, and
I just know if you thought it would be like a smaller category since there's less.
Well, I think online gaming like kind of helped like cause a bit kind of an explosion in the first person shooter space, right? Like, and
shooters in general, right?
Yeah, and then
SOCOM was fucking huge.
Yeah, and there was a point at which like you didn't dare release your shooter.
Medal of Honor.
You didn't dare release your shooter without online multiplayer. So I don't know. I think that first person shooters would have like still came to be, but they might have been. They might have been more like a little bit more of a niche like genre than they are now, because they're mainstream now in a way that is like I feel like first person shooters are pretty ubiquitous at this point. And but I think that had a lot to do with like the propagation of like online gameplay and like the first like the Call of Duties and the SOCOMs that you had out there that like kind of really helped like first person shooters like really be as big as they are now. I think that they would still be popular, but I think that they would be popular in like a more specific like focus kind of way, if that makes sense.
Like people like racing games.
Yeah.
Or like not racing games, I should say racing simulators.
Right. Like.
Well, I mean, maybe not. Yeah.
Well,
I feel like they would obviously still exist, but I don't think that they would dominate the game space like they do now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. I think that like I thought about like, cause like when I thought this through, like it was very much like the kind of mindset like kind of like in Prey when they were like Kennedy wasn't assassinated, so this is what really happened. So like
everything's architected with space.
Yeah. So like that's kind of where my mind went. Like if these people didn't build this system in the late '60s, if that wasn't fostered and like further built upon in the '70s, then like where would online gaming be? And then even still, like with online gaming, right? Like we have entire platforms like in the console space built around that whole play style. As so like if that didn't happen, then what is Xbox Live? What is PSN? So
yeah. So
what
mine
about
very much goes off of that, dude. Go ahead, Tanae.
I was to say like Tom, I guess like this. I mean, this question for both of y'all because you're getting more into the fighting game sphere. Do you think like conventions like or I guess like not conventions, but tournaments like Evo, would exist if there wasn't an online gaming, like far
Yeah,
as fighting games go. Like I know it would still be
absolutely.
popular. I just don't know if they would be have as large a conventions without online gaming.
So Battle by the Bay, which eventually turned into Evo, existed before you could play fighting games online. You
Okay.
know, and it grew from there, right? Like, and the fighting game scene in general was built off of a local scene until what has become known as the '09ers, right? Like it was '09 when online fighting games really, it's a term, you can look it up.
Alamo Heights made
Uh,
it.
yeah, after the '09ers, after Street Fighter 4, that's when fighting games online really start becoming a thing,
So then but then you think about this, like online gameplay at home doesn't happen. People still want to play competitive fighting games. Arcade still exists then?
I
Yeah,
don't
I
know.
mean, they would, I honestly think that like if they weren't online gaming, then or there wasn't online gaming, or at least it didn't get happen super soon, was pushed back. I mean, we'd still see arcades now,
Yeah.
for
Well, it's
sure.
interesting you guys say that because not all tournaments, but if you look at a lot of old FGC tournaments back then, before the '09er boom, right? Like you see Evo, like early Evo footage of guys like lugging around arcade machines
Yeah.
to tournaments, as well as consoles, right? But like, yeah, and even now you still
I
see
just imagine
guys
like a
lugging
dolly just
around arcade
coming.
machines. Yeah, it still happens. More so with older games, but it does still happen. Yeah,
Yeah, a lot of anime conventions I go to, they all have gaming rooms, and they're just like covered uh, in like arcade machines.
yeah.
Um, yeah. So what's yours, Thomas?
Okay, so kind of going off Ryan's, I wanted to like kind of pinpoint when and who would change this. And Greg Knessa, which is a name, if you don't know, I think that going forward, eventually, when people start to write about like the history of video games in the same way that they do with movies or books or paintings, Greg Knessa's name, I think, will be remembered. Greg Knessa invents Xbox Live Arcade. So it's funny because Ryan's talking about online gaming, and to me, it's like online gaming still exists without Greg Knessa, uh, but in such a very, very different way, right? Imagine if Xbox Live Arcade never happened. PlayStation was still doing online gaming with games like SOCOM and stuff like that,
They just didn't have a
but it wasn't
unified platform.
right. It wasn't extremely common. Greg Knessa is the reason that if you recall early Xbox Live Arcade, you could buy games off there, but games had to be under a certain file size, and that file size was extremely small. I don't remember what it was, but you're buying games like Galaga.
Yeah, yeah.
That's the kind of game you were
Geometry
getting off of
Wars.
Xbox Live Arcade, right? Uh, and I mean on the OG Xbox. I don't even mean on 360, even though he did like spearhead it with 360 as well. Um, when we started getting into things like Braid coming out, right, and Super Meat Boy coming out, and Summer of Arcade being a thing, this is when we really started to see indie games explode. So indie games had existed long before this, but it was never something that people could really aspire to do as a job and be successful at.
Yeah.
There was things like the Behemoth putting out Alien Hominid on GameCube, right?
Right.
But with a game like that, they had to take on the cost of producing, getting boxes, getting discs from Nintendo, printing them, shipping them, all that shit, right? It's really Xbox Live Arcade that I think we have to thank for the past decade and a half of indie games just going through the roof. Because before that, it was extremely rare to see a game like Alien Hominid on GameCube was extremely rare. Now we're getting indie games left and right. It's not a novelty anymore,
Yeah.
and I think he's a big reason for that. I also think that like other things, achievements, start with that guy. Like fucking I don't know, party chats and lobbies in the console space specifically start with that guy. But let's not forget, Xbox had achievements before fucking Steam. You
Yeah.
know,
Yep.
like it's just crazy to think about. Like, yes, there would still be online gaming. I don't think that indie games would be nearly as popular as they are now.
Sure.
I don't think it would be a viable career choice for a lot of these developers.
Yeah.
And yeah, it would be completely different.
Yeah, I looked it up while you were talking, Tom. So I found an article from Eurogamer from 2009, where you said the file size was really small. That was around then
Yeah.
that they raised the maximum file size to 350 megabytes,
Yeah,
which
and
is
even
like
that's tiny, right?
it's crazy to think about.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like like with Xbox, like so around when Xbox
Also, like digital distribution would just be different, right? Like,
yeah.
we'd probably be buying more games physically if it wasn't for this shit.
Yeah, well, I mean, if
For sure.
like who the fuck is Jonathan Blow, right?
Right, exactly. Back
Um,
then, nobody knew, right?
yeah, and
Same
like,
thing with like Ed McMillan. Nobody knew his name back
but
then
then
unless
like
you were like,
you have digital distribution, which like drastically cuts down on production costs, and then and gets that game into more people's hands, and then you have these like huge like multi-page spreads about these indie developers that you might maybe have never heard of before because
right.
that infrastructure allowed them to get their game out there, which is like really it's
And
nuts.
and with the Sega Dreamcast 3 and their main goal being towards indie developer,
It's
they
better.
really benefited from this online community.
It's better on Dreamcast.
Yeah,
That's
they're the first digital only console.
But yeah, Brett, like, so Xbox and PlayStation are both getting ready to release not the first, but some of the first digital only consoles, certainly in the mainstream
Or-
space.
Yeah.
That
Digital
probably would
only
not be
home
happening,
consoles, not
you
like
know?
obviously the Vita,
Right.
not the Vita, the PSP Go.
PSP Go, right?
Yeah.
But like that probably would not be happening had
Yeah.
it not been for this fucker, you know?
Yeah.
And I think that's pretty cool.
Like the idea of buying a console, like it's still like even with like every game that I've purchased in the last few years has been digital. And
Right.
even with that in mind, the idea of an all digital console is still like
Weird.
it's kind of weird to me.
But even like Corey and James, right? Like Corey and James wouldn't be the trophy whores they are today if it wasn't for this guy, you know?
Yeah.
Like, that's pretty interesting.
He did that to them.
Imagining Corey's wife just like, fuck you. That is kind of crazy.
And obviously
No,
not
I-
him alone, but like most of these ideas were his, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, it's nuts to like look at like because the max file size for Xbox Live Arcade games used to be 50 megabytes.
Yeah.
And then and this is an article published in 2009. They referred to the Watchmen game's 1.2 gigabyte file size as massive.
Yeah.
Which like just last year I bought a video game that was 150 gigabytes. So it's like it's nuts how much that stuff has changed in like the last decade. And
But it's funny because like even before like it's during that time that we start seeing downloadable game versus AAA game, right?
yeah.
That's not even language we use anymore.
Oh,
you know?
yeah.
Because what the fuck's a downloadable game? Every game's a fucking downloadable game,
Yeah.
you know? And like,
No, I mean, every game, even if you have the disc, you need to download some part of it. Like, it's like,
right.
because it does that now.
Well, and it's only now, you know, well over a decade later that we start taking away, like, valuing a game less because of its cheaper
Yeah.
price, you know?
Yeah.
Which is not always the case, but like it is because of quality games like Braid or like Limbo or those early games.
Right.
It's funny to think of those as early games, but you know,
They were just
relatively speaking,
just 10 years ago.
you're right.
What other questions did you have? Because I am curious about what else you had, Tommy.
Well, my other one, I had what if online just never happened? It wasn't as specific as Ryan's, but it's like, what if we just didn't have online gaming?
Um,
And then I
What
also had,
else?
I think probably what would make the biggest impact on the industry is what if Nintendo never made hardware?
hmm.
Oh, that is interesting.
Yeah, because that, I mean, that's no D-pad, that's no analog stick, that's no shoulder buttons. That is possibly no recovery from the video game crash.
So
You
possibly just
know,
no games.
right?
Uh,
Possibly, yeah.
and then also like, I mean, Mario would not have the legacy it has now. Legend of
Yeah.
Zelda would probably not have the legacy it has now. Like,
But you know what? I kind of have to wonder if, let's say, like Nintendo never made hardware, and it makes me think about what we said with the stuff with online gaming before. Like, what if those guys in the late '60s didn't do what they did? Well, maybe online gaming would have happened. It would maybe just would have happened perhaps later, and so I have to wonder like maybe someone else takes a crack at it and maybe they're successful.
Well, other people were, right?
Yeah,
Games would probably still exist. There were consoles coming out after Atari and before NES.
right.
You know,
But I think
they
that
yeah.
just
people would have been more
were not
skittish.
successful.
Like
Right.
let's like if the video game crash just like completely devastated video games to the point where people just stop making video games at a point. And I think that whoever that next manufacturer was would probably been a little bit more skittish, and those games probably would have trickled out as opposed to like the way that they like were kind of flooding in post NES, right?
I
So
think like what we would have likely have seen, and which what we did see, is just a perhaps a greater rise in PC gaming at the
sure,
time
yeah,
because people were less afraid to make software for something that wasn't for a piece of hardware that wasn't so specific to gaming.
right,
You know,
Yeah.
people already have a computer in their home for whatever. You know,
yeah.
we can solve the game for that. But yeah, it's interesting to think about. Like, even if like even if the gaming crash never happened, like I wonder how we would be interacting with games physically. You know,
Sure.
would we still be using like dials and weird joysticks or like what
Yeah, maybe.
keypads like fucking well, I don't know.
Yeah, I think maybe.
Power gloves. Nothing. Nothing else. Only power gloves.
Well, I think that so like I guess it just depends on like why one would say like that the previous iterations of hardware weren't successful, and so like I think that
Oversaturation of software, bad software.
so then it had nothing to do with the way that we were interacting with the games, right? So
No, but the way we were interacting with the games is not. We would not want to be interacting with those games in that way.
well, sure. Like
I don't know.
I wouldn't want to play
You
my
know.
games with an Atari joystick for sure, but I wonder what the controllers would have looked like. Um, it's just it's an interesting what if. It's a terrifying what if because
Yeah.
I don't want to live in that world, but um, and
Um.
I don't know. I think about all the great times I had with the NES. Um, like even like because like there were a lot of games on the NES that were really great, but there were also a lot of them that were stinkers, and I played them. I played a good mix of both. I'm glad for it though,
Yeah.
because
d-
there are still a good mix of stinkers. There, in fact, there are more stinkers now because
More
everybody can.
stinkers than ever.
Yeah, because now everybody can make their own fucking stinkers at like a very low cost and just throw them up wherever they wanna. So,
Yep.
Did you have any backups or any extras, Ryan?
no, not really. Um, I don't know. I kind of like that. That one kind of took a lot of processing power, if I'm being honest. Um, like
Uh,
it's fun though. I like thought exercises
I have a
like that.
couple. So, I have what if Blizzard never became popular? So that means no StarCraft, no World of Warcraft,
No rock and roll
uh,
racing.
because
Well, it
Diablo.
doesn't mean no.
I
You
mean,
said if they never become popular,
Well,
or is it
because
just if they never were?
I'm thinking like if they like their first couple strategy games because it wasn't StarCraft because there was the before World of Warcraft there was just Warcraft and then they had a couple other before that but I can't remember.
Well, they published
But
a lot back then too.
yeah.
Yeah. So say like they never made their greatest hits and they
Yeah.
never got popular, that didn't come around. So there's no StarCraft channel in South Korea. There's no
Didn't they
uh
publish Primal Rage?
No,
Did they not publish Primal Rage?
I'm looking.
all I can think about is
I'm looking it up.
Primeval, and
I'm looking it up.
I know and like I still cannot think at this moment.
I know they didn't develop it, but I could have sworn they published it.
Primal
I don't know.
Primal Rage. Uh, no.
No, okay.
That game was published by Atari. And the
What?
yeah, and the ports were done by Time Warner Interactive. And the specifically the 3DO version was done by LG Electronics. So weird, right?
Okay.
Yeah. So I guess like the one that I could speak about, and it was like, what would that mean for the MMO scene? Like, what would that like
It would mean
change?
that Phantasy Star Online would be bigger today than it has
Yeah.
ever been.
Well, I mean, so yeah, like
I think like EverQuest would be more revered. So would Guild Wars. I think
I think Guild Wars
that
wouldn't happen. Guild
I
Wars
think
draws too much
Yeah.
from
so
World of
Guild.
Warcraft.
I think Guild Wars happened.
I mean a lot of you could say Ion, you could say like a lot like Final Fantasy Online. You can say a lot of things
Absolutely.
direct.
Yeah, well,
derive
like
those.
Absolutely.
a lot of
I don't think they would exist either.
a lot of those
But-
a lot of those MMOs that came out after World of Warcraft definitely used their model, but like
Yeah.
I'm thinking about where the games that preceded World of Warcraft would have gone, right?
Like Phantasy Star.
Like Fantasy Star, Ultima Online.
Well, didn't the first EverQuest come out before World of Warcraft?
It did.
Yeah. Okay. So like I think that would have a bigger stamp on the market. I feel like more people would play, or actually I don't know if like more people would play. I do feel like it would definitely change the game space because I know quite a few people their first game they played was World of Warcraft.
Yeah.
And then they got into other gaming because of it.
Yeah.
Roblox.
I do think I do think that MMOs are still like a very like they're I think MMOs are still a very niche thing. They were made more well known by the presence of World of Warcraft, but I don't think that people were really talking about any MMO like in like pop culture or outside of like mainstream gaming before World of Warcraft. And so, but
I think if you go back and look at like old Game Pros and shit, like I keep bringing up Phantasy Star because Phantasy Star was a big fucking deal.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, it was like it's an apt thing, but I was
Yeah. And obviously, like the Phantasy Star Online numbers do not come close to World of Warcraft.
Yeah.
Nothing does.
But people were still talking about it like this is the fucking future, you know?
Yeah.
And also, didn't it do compared to like other MMOs, let's say like EverQuest and Guild Wars, like I feel like it did way better in the Asian markets.
I can't speak to that, but you're probably right. I would assume so.
Yeah. So
I think where because I guess like what happened after World of Warcraft was that every MMO that came out after that tried to make itself more accessible, like make those games were
the next World of Warcraft.
like I mean like because I think that like MMOs like that precede World of Warcraft were like kind of obtuse in a way that World of Warcraft isn't, and I think that World of Warcraft kind of like blew up because of how easy it is to get into as opposed to other MMOs, but I don't know. I mean, but like it's weird, right? Because like pretty much not everyone, like Final Fantasy is still going, but like most of the MMOs that came out after World of Warcraft just didn't succeed, and I'm pretty sure it was because of World of Warcraft.
I think there's something there, but I also do think that the longevity of an MMO really has to do with the content that you get at the top level.
Okay.
And that's one thing that World of Warcraft did fantastically and continues to do fantastically. Just because, like, let's just say every MMO out there, your top level's level 100. So let's say, like, any MMO that you hit level 100, and if it's a game that you're going to be playing a lot, Like, once you get there, it's like, well, now what? I've been doing all these things. I hit the level 100. So what do I do with my game? And I'm not talking about people who go into those games specifically planning to raid with like online friends. A lot of people do not have a lot of online friends before going into the game. Um, and I think that really sets the tone on if it has longevity because certain things like the Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic online.
The Old
On that
Republic.
the Old Republic, whatever. You know what I mean. I always want to call it KOTOR, and
It's not.
Just call it Tor.
I know, but
Just take the co off. It's
yeah.
just Tor.
So with Tor, I know that a lot of the longevity of that game came from people being able to role play in it and having such large amounts of Star Wars knowledge beforehand, made it probably longer than that game would have actually like lasted as far as being like popular. And I feel like
I also think
that's the
that
one.
game went free to play extremely quickly. Extremely
Yeah,
quickly.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they made a lot of money off microtransactions, that's for sure. But I mean, what isn't? Anyways, but yeah, I do think that there would be. I think that in some ways there would probably be more diversity in the MMO space. And the fact is that more people would probably think more of like what you can do before you hit that level 100 than the standard being because of WoW focusing on what happens when you hit level 100.
But you know what's funny is like, there's been Blizzard games that I've enjoyed all right, but like, I think Blizzard, like, even if they just were never to exist, it's like a blip on the map to me. It wouldn't affect me all that much. You know, I understand that there's a lot of people that love, Overwatch and World of Warcraft and all that shit. And
StarCraft, Diablo.
esports would not be as big, but like, to me, it's just a fucking, yeah, it's a pit stop. It wouldn't matter to me.
But
I
it probably
had fun with
it probably
Diablo,
affects a
but
lot of
like,
it probably affects a lot of gaming history that
it affects a lot of gaming history, but I don't think it affects gaming history or games, for that matter, or communities that are important to myself,
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, and also, I wonder where MOBAs come from, or if they exist at all after if Blizzard doesn't like really hit its stride.
Well, they existed before Dota,
Yeah.
but yeah, it definitely wouldn't be as big, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't
Or it
actually know
probably
shit
might it
about
probably would have
MOBAs.
hit it might have been hit like sooner or differently because of the lack of a dominant MMO space.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Uh
I don't.
and then my last question.
Okay.
Oh, Dota's not
I'm
even
gonna
fucking Blizzard. Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, because I was like, isn't it Hearthstone? But yeah.
No, Heroes of the
Uh
Storm, dude.
oh, here's the storm.
And
I
I was saying
I don't I don't MOBA.
because Dota came from Warcraft 3, so
Right, it was a Warcraft mod.
yeah.
What if Borderlands became even more popular than Call of Duty? What if it was one of the most
Oh my
popular games
fucking
on
god. That
what if
would
it
Wow,
became
that's a
culturally
hard one.
relevant to where it or like Big Bang Theory and other like stupid TV shows mention it by name like they do WoW and Call of Duty?
oh my god, that like actually like I don't know like I don't
What-
and I'm not trying to be
Would you stop being a gamer?
I'm not trying to be
No,
hyperbolic.
not at all.
I'm not trying to be I'm like not at all trying to be hyperbolic, but like that made me nauseous a little bit.
Honestly, not myself. Like I put Borderlands in the same ballpark as I do like something like Fortnite. Obviously, they're very different games, but they both have a level, like an elementary level of humor and style that I can't get behind. But like, I love that my friends have fun with Fortnite and have fun with Borderlands. Like, I wouldn't care if that shit was fucking huge. I mean, it already is fucking huge.
Yeah, but what if like everyone's talking about like Gearbox all the time? Everyone wants to know what that studio's
That's
doing. Like
okay.
it dominates the news.
So like
Yeah, that's
I
okay
guess
with me.
when
Like, I would say tell them that they're
when I
dumb, but like, I don't really care.
when I heard huge, I guess and the way my brain processed it was more influential. and and
Yeah,
I
like it's breaking record numbers in
well,
sales. Like it is the most sold game on the consoles it's
I mean,
on.
Fortnite already is, right?
if
Like, I don't really care.
if
Oh,
like
that is true.
if we're talking about like it influencing like the tone of more games, then I don't think I'd
Oh, it
like that.
would.
I don't think I'd like that very much.
But it already did, right? Like, that's why you saw stuff like Destiny coming out and the Division coming out. Like, they're trying to capture, and I think in a lot of ways they did, and then exceeded the success of games like Borderlands.
No, I don't like. Well, that's like not. I'm not talking about mechanics. I'm talking about like the shit that they say in those Borderlands games. I guess so. Like the overall like vibe of
Yeah.
those games,
Yeah.
which is like
Well, I mean, like,
I find
the Borderlands
repellent.
games are very much WoW light. Like, it's very
And
much,
like,
oh hey, purple's legendary, cool. Like,
and again, I'm not
it's
talking about
all
like,
the same thing.
and again, I'm not talking
No,
about
you mean more like the writing and the humor
yeah,
and
I'm not
stuff
talking
like
about
that,
like
right?
mechanics.
Like, yeah.
Like, cause
Yeah.
I like loot driven games. I like loot driven shooters. I was just talking about how I'm playing Destiny a bunch, but like,
And what's sad about that is like I really respect and enjoy a lot of Anthony Birch's writing, and he has a very interesting lecture on writing Borderlands. But man, I don't like the writing in Borderlands, and I know he didn't write those on his own,
Yeah.
but like still, I don't know.
I don't know. I don't know. I short answer is I hate that, but like,
I like short answer. It's fine.
yeah.
I specifically did that one because I knew you guys wouldn't like it. But yeah, I I kind of like didn't want to end it on a bummer, but I kind of wanted to talk about like just some more, or at least like touch upon again, like just all the craziness going on in the gaming sphere right now. And it's really
Again?
funny. What?
I don't know. I just feel like last week's episode was such a bummer. But
Um,
that's all right. We can talk about it. What do you want to talk about, Shanae?
well, so there are some groups and forums I go to where it's like a lot of it's making fun of it, but they like girl gamer groups where it's just like women that are into gaming that like have a space to where like we can just not have that divide there. Like our because like it's a safe space, whatever. But it's one where it is easier to have these kind of conversations. But it's been super fun because there's been a lot of fucking memes about no one being surprised about all these guys coming out as creeps and a lot of jokes about like how we've been bringing stuff up for years and people haven't listened and all of a sudden now. And I don't know, it's been kind of like brightening my day because people be able to make fun in this sphere already or feeling comfortable to. Obviously things haven't been fixed completely, but it's been real fun and on that small sliver of sphere. And it's I don't know, it's been pretty nice because like I've been in those groups for a while because a lot of them are just like, hey, like some of them is just posting your battle station, like your PC thing, and like where you can have all the pink lights and cute little like buddy themed keyboards. No one's gonna just like say this is stupid or whatever, or like try and get quiz you for your video game knowledge to show you're a real gamer. And yeah, it's been and like just encouragement and stuff like that. But I've just been seeing more jokes lately because people like, of course, are done with being bummed, and everyone is aware of what's going on.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't think it's fair to say that people are done with being bummed, though. I saw a lot of bummed
Well, not
females online today in regards to the FGC.
Yeah.
well. I mean, like they're still bond. I mean, it's still bond, but I guess like fine. I don't know, just dealing with it with the humor and being, but also realizing it is happening and just being like, yeah, no shit, this is happening. Thanks for listening. Let's also change these things while we're at it and move forward. But it is, I don't know. I just think it's nice when I see a point where it's tipping where people are not just consumed with the atrocity of it, but like being very realistic about it, but also like being able to, I don't know, deal with it with humor.
Well,
Yeah.
I think that's it's I think from like a mental health standpoint, I think it's important to be able to like in some way like disengage, like being mindful of it, but like disengage from it for a little while, like give yourself a chance to catch your breath and like find support with other people who could relate or go through the same thing. Like I will never understand what it is that women go through in any facet of society, much less in video games. Um, but I am glad to hear that you have somewhere where you can go, where you can, talk to other people who share your experience and find some humor in, what is otherwise shitty. Um, so yeah, that's good.
Yeah, like one of them, like the battle stations one that I like follow. It had like a post where it's like new battle station, and then like on the screen is like a list of like people who have been recently outed as being creeps or sexual harassment or have been recently fired for it. Like things like that. I just think it's funny, and yeah, but you're right. Like it's a way to deal with it.
Yeah.
I don't know. I was looking at that before the podcast, and I just wanted to touch upon it. And
Sure.
like, if you are a female listener and that, like, hit me up. I'll send you some way if you want some fun spaces where you don't have to feel weird about the fact that you want the cutest, pinkest, whatever battle station. Because
Yeah.
there's a lot of like I don't know if you ever like go on like Overwatch or like other forums, people would do like diva themed and stuff like battle stations and other things like that, and like people just shit on them.
Well, I don't really get behind people being shitty to someone else for liking something that they like if it's not hurting anyone else. Like if you want your fucking computer to look like Diva or whatever the hell, if you want it just doesn't matter. So it's good that you have that these people have a place where they can go and show off their computers without getting made fun of. But I also think that anybody who would make fun of somebody for having a computer that they like is, I mean, that's just cruddy. So
Yeah, I just wish I had the money. Money
uh,
would be dope.
you could
I
you could have
could,
the
but I
money.
don't. We
Um,
should fix that. Who
I,
do I talk to for that?
I don't know. You could slang some bricks, I guess.
uh, but yeah. So I hope that wasn't too bummery. Sorry. On that.
Well, thank you for sharing that with us, Shanae.
Thanks for bumming me out, Shanae.
Yeah, thanks for bumming Tom out.
You're welcome. You're welcome, Tom. Anything to make your night a little worse.
Sure.
I know we kind of brought it off the topic, but was there anything else that y'all wanted to talk about with What If Machine? All I can think about is the Futurama episode with the thing longer.
Yeah, the thing longer. What if that was your control? The thing longer. Good news.
Yeah. I don't think I don't know. I don't think I'd like video games very much.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like we could go off on like these what if scenarios for a long time. I just thought it would be interesting. Like maybe we can come back to it, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. I liked all the research you put into yours, Ryan.
Oh yeah, I was all over the internet with that.
I put no research into mine.
Well, see, that's the thing, Tom, is that like you have this uncanny ability to store a massive amount of information in your noggin. I, however, cannot do that. So
You know a lot, we know a little, so.
you know a lot, Ryan.
I mean, facts on Ryan knowing a lot.
yeah.
Ryan
So
knows years.
I'll tell you what. I know how to not accidentally stop recording in the middle of an episode now. So
That's good. I listened to the last episode and like, of course it was in the middle of a point I was making, and then cuts to like fucking
hey, dude,
way later, completely out of context.
I did the best I could with what I had, and I felt like if you weren't listening close enough, it made sense.
It really didn't.
Well,
You should have recorded you saying something in the middle, but added it there, and then.
Yeah.
I
That's all right.
just put in a clip of me saying sorry, and then go.
Yes.
That was
That's what
my
you should've
bad.
done.
I still have no idea how that happened because I don't remember pressing anything or what. But
It's probably
You
just
said
a
you got
slip of
tired
the
of
elbow, a little slip of the elbow.
Yeah, maybe.
you got
Right?
tired of listening to Tom talk. You're like, fuck you, Tom. I'm gonna cut you off.
Uh,
Yeah, I'm trying not to monopolize the
no,
conversation so
Oh,
much.
you're fine.
it's funny that you say that, Tom, because every time I look at one of our episodes, I will just keep fast forwarding to like different random spots in each episode, and every point that I hit is me talking. So
Yeah.
so maybe it's me.
No, I like your point of view, Tom, and I like your knowledge. Because it makes me more knowledgeable. Because I learn these things
Eligible?
through knowledgeable.
Oh, I thought you said eligible.
Because I learn these things from you. I'm complimenting you. Don't be an ass.
Yeah.
I wasn't being asked. I just heard you wrong.
How the turntables.
That's right.
All right. Well, we got a pop on Instagram thanks to Thomas, so you should check that out.
Poppin'.
Yeah, Poplars.
Come say hi.
More Futurama references for you.
Yeah.
We also have a Discord room,
It's a
which
really
should
good
be linked.
Discord.
Yeah, it is. It's some.
Hi, Abs.
Hi, Abs. Got a shout out for him.
Hey, Abs. It's a 3-person shout out on there.
Hi, Sandy. Hi, Corey. Hi,
I just
Rez.
want to say hi to Abs.
Hi, Tommy. Hi, Shanae.
Only them.
You can find us on most podcast apps. We're also on the YouTubes. If you want to go there, like, comment, subscribe. Leave a
Don't
comment.
say like, comment, subscribe ever again.
Oh my God, Shanae. I'm gonna cut off the recording now.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.